This is my ghost. We've been through a lot together in the Destiny universe. He's kind of like my shadow in a sense. He's much more talkative than me, which is a good thing, and always seems to know what I'm thinking. We've had a lot of good times together, and a lot of bad times as well. He's a lot smarter than people give him credit for, with a lot of experience and wisdom to share. He's very hopeful in a place where the odds seem countlessly stacked against us. But most of all, he's my friend, and today I'll be taking him out of the Destiny universe and into my world. So take a good look, because now I have to work out how to build this. That paint alone is going to be very troublesome. But I think it's going to be worth it. This particular project has opened hundreds of doors for me. This is the first time I'd actually made something for myself using a 3D printer. Now this one here is actually my brother's, which I stole for a good 24 hours or so, to use the Destiny STL generator to find a model for this particular ghost shell and fix it and then print it. I was absolutely mesmerized by this entire process, so excuse the hundreds of pieces of footage I have of this when I just stared at this machine for hours. If you do plan on doing a project like this, just be aware that the Destiny STL generator often has errors in the models. These models are made for a video game, not for real life, so just be aware you might need to fix it up. Another thing is, think about what infill you want to have for different parts. I actually made the inner circle, the spear, quite a lot heavier and denser than the rest of the parts, so that there was a little bit of balance to this design. Please excuse the copious amount of glue that is on his bed. He says it works, and he never has to put new glue on now, so... I mean, if it works, it works. Alrighty, one part down. And how many more to go? I was really surprised that these antenna parts actually printed okay. I was expecting them to snap off when I took the supports off, but yeah, they did alright. They ended up snapping later, but that was fixed with some glue. And now for the next part to print. This part here is actually the face, essentially. And this was definitely the biggest part, and it took the longest. This one even printed throughout the night, which was a new experience for me at the time. God, this printer sounds super creepy at night. Like, oh my god. But the face came out really well. I was really excited once this came out. started to feel like it could actually come together really well. But the hard part was actually getting the supports off. That was going to be a pain. But I could revel in that moment for a little bit. Now this definitely took a steep learning curve to work out how to do. I wasn't used to these supports at all, and I had to work out how to get them off in a way that wasn't going to damage the model, but it was also going to be efficient. I ended up finding that actually twisting the pliers, especially in these areas where it's like the supports are on the inside, seemed to speed it up quite a fair bit, and actually it worked really well too, so I don't know, maybe that'll work for you. But eventually it all came out. But there was a slight problem with how this had printed. How was I going to get the sphere inside? Turns out there was actually a gap between the printing, whether this was a malfunction or it broke while I was taking the things up, I'm not sure, but I was actually able to bend it and get the sphere in. It's coming together. And now for the back portion of the shell. So this here gives you a pretty good idea of how this is going to all come together in the end. And now for my least favourite part of any project, really. Sanding. I feel like there has to be an easy way to sand 3D pieces. And without having it melt as well. Like, that's a bit of a problem, so you can't really use electric sanders because the friction builds up the heat and melts the part. So you have to wet sand with just pieces of sandpaper, but that's very tedious. And in some projects I just forgo this step altogether because I can't be bothered, which is terrible, terrible practice. I did find one way to help with this issue though, and that was to watch Critical Role while I was doing this. It seemed to help a bit, went a little bit faster. So after that first bit of sanding, I'm applying a primer to all of the pieces. It's just a black, standard, I think it's a Rust-Oleum primer. Nothing too special. I'm hoping that this not only gives a nice base to paint on for the colours, but it's also to help it all stick together as well. And if you wanted a black ghost, you could probably leave it here. I feel like I'm slowly becoming better at spray painting, but it's a very slow process. I'll be an expert eventually, don't worry. And now for more sanding, of course. I like applying the primer and then doing some more sanding afterwards because the primer actually fills in some of the gaps. So you get a bit of a smoother finish, just from what I've found. Because 3D filament printers print in quite small layers, the paint is often thick enough to actually cover these up a little bit. Now, as you can see, I'm also using different levels of sandpaper grit. I can't remember exactly what I used, but I believe I started with an 80 grit and eventually worked my way up to a 1500 grit. The idea of this was to just get a really nice smooth finish. And it seemed to work really well. But now, of course, we've just sanded majority of that primer off, so I have to reapply it. On the side there, you've got a sneaky little view of something I didn't actually film, and that was my Destiny Hunter knife. This is often hanging in the background of my Twitch streams if you ever want to take a look at it, but it's essentially just a 3D printed model that was sprayed with first a black primer and then a chrome spray paint. But now we're going to work on actually painting the spear. Now, this part I didn't actually want to spray paint. I wanted to give it a brushed sort of silvery look because in the model itself on Destiny, it's not a smooth chrome finish. It's sort of like a burnished metal. And this is the effect I was trying to get here by dry brushing some silver onto it. I really enjoyed this part. This was super therapeutic to do. And now I'm just going to go over that eye section with black because there is some silver that's gotten onto it. And really make sure that looks nice and dark, and trying to fill in some gaps as well that have been left behind from the sanding. Now I'm also adding a little bit of blue to this. I find sometimes it just gives a nicer black, really. But that's pretty much it for the circle. I added some little details with a black paint and also got a little yellow dot there, which I noticed was in the display on the game. And now it's time to draw the eye. I just completely freehanded this, but if you wanted, you could probably do print out a stencil of one of these and spray paint it or paint inside the gaps. If I add more resources, I would like to make this particular project electronic. I had made a ghost shell in the past using balsa wood, and I did actually have an LED on the inside, and it looks really cool, but I decided to just go with paint. I think it was going to be easier and I could control it a bit more. I did really consider making the shell move, but then I realized looking at the model on the Destiny game is that it actually clips through itself, so that wasn't going to be possible. Now, finding a spray paint to get that really cool, what would you call it, an oil sheen effect, I guess, took me a while. Since this was happening during COVID, a lot of places were out of stock. Like, I had one place that I basically had to wait a month for them to tell me, oh, sorry, it's really not going to come in. We thought it was going to come in from America, and it's not. Sorry, we'll just cancel your order. Which was fun, so that delayed the project a lot. But I ended up going with this particular paint, which I believe is by DNA. and it is amazing. They have so many different colors as well, and this was spot on. I'm really glad I ended up going with this paint and not the one I'd originally decided on, because this was a much closer to fit to the model. Now this particular paint sort of looks like a grey, but it's mainly a purpley grey that goes to like a green sheen, and I really love it. Now I don't know if you could just notice there, but there's a little bit of sheen over the eye. I actually put like a little layer of resin to sort of give it a glass look. But now it's time to put the model all together, and this was a little tricky. I had a few different glues I was going to try out, but what ended up working for me was hot glue. Now in some areas I've also added epoxy to this particular model. I think in future I'd probably try super glue instead, but I didn't have any at the time. But really I felt like I needed something that's going to cure quickly, because it was a real struggle to get all of these pieces in the right spot. So is this model the strongest thing in the world? Not really. Maybe at some point I'll go back and add a stronger glue to make it all go together, but at this stage it does the job. One thing to be aware though is some of these glues will actually take the paint off, so make sure you only get it in the particular area that's going to have contact. Don't get it on the outside, because then you'll have to re-spray paint your entire model, and that's not fun. It was really satisfying putting this guy together, I have to say. This final moment here, that felt really good. Now I ended up going over this guy with a coat of clear, glossy spray paint. It didn't seem to make that much of a difference. I'm not sure why this is. But like the glossy sheen wasn't as noticeable as I thought it would be. Although I did end up going over a couple of times after this with the DNA color shifting spray paint again. So maybe it just needs another coat of gloss. But it did seem to absorb into it a bit more than I expected. So I'm not sure why this is, but looks pretty good here. Now this was fabulous until I realized I forgot the antennas. But now we're good. Well guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this. This was a really fun and long project for me. And let me know down in the comments, what's your favourite ghost shell? This is personally mine, as you can tell by the fact I spent hours and hours and days and weeks and months making this, but what's yours? Anyway guys, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you like what I'm doing here, and I will see you all next Friday. Bye. Also, can you spot my ghost in my new end scene? Bye guys.